Hello and welcome to the 2021 Veterans Day, acknowledging and celebrating our veterans. TRCS is proud to celebrate our veterans today and every day. Lamar Stewart. Delilah Lim's great uncle, Lamar Stewart, proudly served with the 101st Airborne Division, better known as the Screaming Eagles, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Donald Funk. United States Air Force Lieutenant Donald Funk is the great-grandfather to Trenton, Tristan, and Kylie Funk. He flew the B-17 in World War II, flew troops home from North Africa, and in the Korean conflict. Later in his career, he flew the very first KC-135. Carl Sorensen. Commander Sorensen served in the United States Navy. He served in both World War II and the Korean War and is the great-grandfather of Clint and Carl Johnson. Robert S. Holmes. Robert S. Holmes is Emily Hessler's great-grandfather. He was Private First Class and was drafted in the U.S. Army. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge and as an anti-tank gun crewman in World War II. MARGARITO ROMEO CANTU. Private Cantu served in the United States Army and is stationed at USAG Baumholder, Germany. He is the older brother to Nathan Edgar and Kayleana Cantu. Alan Lee. Alan Lee is Sissy Luttrell and Hope Luttrell's stepfather. He worked as a nurse in the United States Navy for 7 years. Michael Bruning. This is Lucas Bruning's dad. Technical Sergeant Michael Bruning is currently assigned to the 940th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron at Beale Air Force Base as an aircraft electrical and environmental systems craftsman. Matthew Pacheco. Master Sergeant Matthew Pacheco, retired, is Ella Pacheco's father. He proudly served 20 years in the United States Air Force and supported efforts after 9/11 with deployments to Pakistan, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Cade Johnson. Cade Johnson is Riker and Emerson Johnson's uncle. He served in the United States Marine Corps from 2012 to 2016. Quinn Jolly. Master Sergeant Quinn Jolly is Mrs. Jolly's father-in-law and Holden Jolly's grandfather. He served in the Vietnam conflict as a crew member servicing the SR-71 and F-111. Warren Mader Sr. Warren Mader Sr. is Carter Mader's grandpa, who served in the United States Air Force. George E. Morrell. Mr. George served in the United States Air Force from 1958 to 1978. Mr. George is grandpa to Ava and Madison Sayers. Harry Poulos. Ogden Aristides and Chancellor Paulos's great-grandfather, Harry Poulos, served 1917 to 1918. Charles Ellis Jr. Charles Ellis Jr. was Cameron, Brooke, Addison, and Avery Kirstein's great-grandfather. He served in the United States Navy during World War II. Harold Steininger. Ashley, Alyssa, and David Erickson's grandfather served in the Army 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam, 1966 to 1968. Alan L. Hackett. JT and Ava's grandfather and Dr. Villalobos' dad, Alan Hackett, served in the United States Navy. He was stationed at Corpus Christi in Texas. Don Anthony Ferraro. This is Don Anthony Ferraro's grandfather to Jack and Sophia Laney. He was a specialist corporal in the United States Army and was stationed at Fort Ord, California from April 1961 to April 1967. Trish Ellis. Trish Ellis is Blake Ellis's mom. She served in the United States Air Force C-5 and C-130 Loadmaster 2001 to 2008. Sean Martin. This is Sean Martin, Adeline and Brody Martin's dad. He was in the United States Air Force. Randy Gilmore. This is Aspen and Cannon Gilmore's grandpa and Mrs. Gilmore's father-in-law, who served in the military. Mr. Gilmore is pictured in the middle. Sue DiPlacido. Sue DiPlacido is Carter Mader's great-grandmother, who served in the United States Army. Dan Wiggins. This is Dan Wiggins, who served in the United States Navy. He is Carter Mader's grandpa. Max Rothman. This is United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Max Rothman. He is grandfather to Trenton, Tristan, and Kylie Funk, and was stationed throughout the United States and the Europe as a pilot. He served for 22 and a half years flying the KC-135 and C-5. David Lee Erickson. This is Ashley, Alyssa, and David Erickson's grandfather, who was an LCPL in the United States Marine Corps. He served during Vietnam. Fritz Wolff. Fritz Wolff served in the United States Air Force for 20 years. He is Mrs. Key's grandpa. Philip Miller Jr. Lachlan and Stella Trebold's great-grandfather and Mrs. Trebold's grandfather served in the United States Navy on the USS Petroff Bay, an aircraft carrier during World War II. Kason Knight. Kason Knight served our United States Air Force as a mechanic. He is the father of Kai and Zach Knight. Ronald Brooks Cameron. This is great-grandfather to Cameron, Brooke, Addison, and Avery Kirsting. He served in the United States Marine Corps from 1945 to 1946. Frank Williams. Olivia, Elena, and Alexa Williams' grandpa, Frank, served in the United States Army. Spencer Spears. Spencer Spears, who served in the United States Air Force, is Carter Mader's uncle. Bud Titus. Justin Logan and Angelina Rhodes' great-grandfather and Mrs. Rhodes' grandfather served in the United States Navy. Bill Dollywall. Miss Megan's dad, Bill Dollywall, he served several tours in the United States Navy during the Vietnam conflict. John March. Colton and Wyatt Hunt's uncle served in the United States Air Force. Gary David Cooper. Levi Parra's great-grandpa was in the United States Army. John M. Perkins. Mrs. Wilder's dad is pictured on the right. Lieutenant Colonel John M. Perkins served in the United States Army. Joe Gundrum. Joe Gundrum served in the United States Marines as a corporal. Joe Gundrum is Mrs. Jolly's dad and Holden Jolly's grandpa. Donald Cummings. Mrs. Rhodes' grandfather and great-grandfather to Justin, Logan, and Angelina Rhodes was a chief petty officer in the United States Navy. Charles Grandy. A.J. Carter's and D.J. Smith's grandfather was a veteran of the Vietnam War. He served in the United States Army. Charles F. Cook. Aspen and Cannon Gilmore's great-grandpa and Mrs. Gilmore's grandpa served in the United States Air Force. Marty McGregor. Captain Marty McGregor was a U-2 pilot in the United States Air Force. This is Mrs. Peacock's dad. The picture was taken when they returned home from serving in Desert Storm in 1991. Jeff Hawkins. Jeffrey Hawkins served in the United States Army during Vietnam. He is Mrs. Key's father. William E. Paulos. Ogden Aristides and Chancellor Paulos's great-grandfather, Colonel William E. Paulos, served from 1942 to 1980. David Kaiser. Lachlan and Stella Trebold's grandfather and Mrs. Trebold's father served in the United States Army. He was on the MACV Advisory Team 25 in Ban Me Thout, Vietnam. Philip Britton. Colton and Wyatt Hunt's grandpa was in the United States Army. Richard IACONIS. Richard IACONIS served in the United States Air Force as a missile mechanic. He has 4 grandchildren that attend TRCS: Bryson Kinnerson, Braden Farewell, Easton Gingrich, and Reagan IACONIS. Harry Paulos. Ogden Aristides and Chancellor Paulos's great-grandfather, Harry Paulos, served in the military from 1944 to 1954. Scott Whitaker. Maley and Matthews Whitaker's dad and Mrs. Whitaker's husband serves in the United States Air Force Reserve. Tony DiPlacido. Carter Mader's great-grandpa served in the United States Navy. Christine Seamack Ellis and Dave Ellis. Blake Ellis's grandfather and grandmother, Mrs. Ellis, was a sergeant in the Air Force. Mr. Ellis was a sergeant in the Air Force and served in Vietnam. Mark Doering. Brock and Karina's dad served in the United States Army. This photo is at the Baghdad International Airport just after it was taken over in 2003. Mike Yates. Madeline and Garrett Bridges' grandfather served in the U.S. Air Force as a staff sergeant in both the security police and law enforcement military personnel. Maury Brandon Scott. Sergeant Major Maury Scott, uncle to Davy Davison, who served in the United States Army from July 24, 1996 to February 16, 2020, when he passed away unexpectedly. He was extremely dedicated and committed to his family, friends, and country. Andrew Hunt. Colton and Wyatt Hunt's dad is a United States Navy combat air crew member. Orson Martin. Army Sergeant Orson Martin, great-grandfather to Trenton, Tristan, and Kylie Funk. He was stationed at Pearl Harbor as a shortwave radio operator and was one of the first to receive intelligence the United States had just dropped bombs on Japan. David Griffin. Mr. Leff's father-in-law is a United States Army veteran. Earl Eubanks. Arlo and Aaron Eubanks' grandpa Earl was in the United States Air Force. Kevin J. Magera. Kevin J. Magera is Mrs. Magera's husband. He served from 1984 to 1990 as crew chief on the B-52s and as an Air Force Special Warfare Tactical Air Control Party. Ashley Payne. Airman First Class Ashley Payne is the mother to Samuel, Evelyn, and Sophia Payne. She served in the United States Air Force in 2007 and was honorably discharged in 2009. Andronico Fresquez. Andronico Fresquez, great-grandfather to Louis and Eliana Fresquez. He served in the United States Army as a private infantry in World War II. Kirsten Hardison. Miss Megan's sister-in-law, Kirsten served in the United States Navy BM-3. Bruce Trebold. Bruce Trebold served in the United States Navy as a petty officer, second class. He was aircraft communications officer, completed 2 tours in Vietnam, and engaged in anti-submarine and coastal surveillance. He is grandfather to Stella and Lachlan Trebold. Jesus M. Valenzuela Jr. Ashley, Alyssa, and David Erickson's grandfather was a sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. He was stationed in Vietnam. Leroy Theodore Bud Penny, the great-grandfather of Hadley and Nikolai Wiegard. Bud served in the United States Army during World War II. Jeanette Lilliard and Jim Lineman were Maylie and Matthew Whitaker's great-aunt and grandpa and Mrs. Whitaker's dad and aunt, who served in the United States Air Force. Tyler Franzen. Madison and Aubrey Franzen's dad served 9 years in the United States Army and also served an 18-month deployment in Iraq. Larry Hamilton. Olivia and Elena and Alexa's Williams' grandpa served in the United States Marine Corps in Vietnam. David Wheeler. Kelsey, Carson, Colin, and Kate Givicky's great-grandpa and Mrs. Samantha Givicky's grandpa Dave. He served as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force as a B-17 pilot during World War II. Keith Combs. Mrs. Norton's father served in the United States Navy from 1959 to 1964. Bill Hawkins. Bill Hawkins served in the United States Army. He is the great-uncle of Mrs. Key. Bob Ziegemeyer. Brock and Karina Doering's grandpa was a United States Navy veteran and served during World War II. Kevin Benson, Mrs. Key's brother-in-law, currently serves in the United States Air Force at Pearl Harbor, Hickam Hill. Richard Rhodes, Mrs. Rhodes' father-in-law, and Justin, Logan, and Angelina Rhodes' grandfather served in the United States Army. Kim Gundrum. Kim Gundrum served in the United States Navy as a first-class petty officer. Mrs. Gundrum is Mrs. Jolly's mom and Holden Jolly's grandma. Robert McCulley. Robert McCulley is the great-grandfather of Maya and Hannah Lanseri. He was in the military police branch. Mitchell G. Fenton. Ashley, Alyssa, and David Erickson's great-grandfather was a captain in the Army Air Corps during World War II. He was a P-51 Mustang pilot, ace pilot, and was shot down twice, once behind enemy lines and evaded capture. He is credited with one half a U-boat. Keith Whitaker. Maylie and Matthew Whitaker's grandpa and Mrs. Whitaker's father-in-law served in the United States Air Force. Gary Deck. Chloe Deck's great-grandpa served in the United States Air Force. Alfredo Joseph. Naya Jimenez's grandfather served in the United States Air Force. Fred Hawkins. Fred Hawkins served in the United States Army. He was Mrs. Key's grandpa. William Curtis Roth. Aaron and Arlo Eubanks' grandpa served in the United States Air Force. Joe Del Perro. Grandpa Joe is the grandfather to Alexandra, Olivia, and Thomas Montna. He served in the United States Army Infantry in West Germany. Ryan Rothman. United States Air Force Captain Ryan Rothman is Trenton, Tristan, and Kylie Funk's uncle. He deployed to UAD after 9/11, where he flew a KC-10 in refueling missions, providing support to our fighter pilots during Operation Enduring Freedom. Frank Ferrardi. Mr. Frank Ferrardi, pictured on the right, served in the United States Army. He is great-grandpa to Simon Atkins. Jared Ward. Sergeant First Class Jared Ward served over 29 years as a truck and heavy equipment mechanic for the National Guard. He has been stationed in Iraq twice and Dubai. He's cousins to Lila and Kate Carney. Bob McDonald. This is Olivia, Elena, and Alexa Williams' great-grandpa. He served in the United States Army. The picture is from 1953. Jordan Ward. Private Jordan Ward recently graduated from basic training in Oklahoma after joining the Army in July of 2021. He is the cousin to Lila and Kate Carney. Billy Odom. Billy Odom is the father of Zoe and Penelope Odom. He has served since 2004 and is currently finishing officer training school to become a space operation officer. Jefferson Parker, currently serving in the U.S. Coast Guard, cousins to Aristides Chancellor and Ogden POULOS. And our first TRCS alumni is Jaylyn Mendoza. Jaylyn Mendoza is a United States Navy hospital corpsman. She attended TRCS from kindergarten through 8th grade, starting back in 2007. Her brothers attend TRCS, Giovanni and Josiah Villanueva. Jaylyn is currently stationed in Fallon, Nevada, working as medic at the Fallon Service Clinic on base. Since her schooling and training in the military is completed, she plans to begin junior college in the spring and wants to continue her education and training in the medical field. We thank you for your service. May we always remember your sacrifice and service to our country. Thank you.